Welcome back to Investor School. Imagine, for a moment, that an invisible machine generates money for you every single time someone hums a tune, wears a logo, or copies a product idea. That machine is intellectual property, and today's deep dive peels back the velvet curtain on how the very wealthy convert ideas, creativity, and legal ink into durable wealth. You'll hear words like patent and trademark and copyright, but this is not dry law. It's the architecture of modern advantage. The ultra-wealthy don't just invent or create, they sculpt legal monopolies and recurring revenue streams. They turn fleeting attention into predictable cash flows, and they use a set of strategies that most people never see because those strategies live at the intersection of law, finance, and psychology. By the end of this session, you'll recognize why a single patent can out-earn a factory, why a brand can command premium pricing long after the founder is gone, and why the smartest families treat IP not as decoration but as a primary asset class. Pay attention to the emotional levers at work here: scarcity, exclusivity, legacy, because those are the same levers that make IP priceless in the marketplace and irresistible to investors. How does this work in practical terms? First, IP creates exclusion. A patent stops competitors. A trademark prevents dilution. A copyright controls reproduction. Exclusion equals pricing power, and pricing power turns into margins that compound. Second, IP is remarkably flexible as a financial instrument. It can be licensed for recurring royalties, used as collateral in loans, spun out into separate holding companies, or sold in high-value transactions, sometimes privately, sometimes publicly. Third, IP is mobile across borders when structured properly, which enables tax optimization, legal risk layering, and jurisdictional arbitrage. The ultra-rich exploit all three levers: exclusion, flexibility, and mobility, in combination. They also pair IP with storytelling. A brand narrative or founder myth makes protection tangible in consumers' minds, which makes legal rights convert into sustained demand. These strategies are not about hoarding knowledge for the sake of secrecy. They're about designing predictable streams of income and control. If you're finding this useful and want frameworks like these delivered weekly, hit subscribe and ring the bell. It's a tiny action that keeps you 5 steps ahead of most investors. Now let's translate ideas into a mental model you can use. Picture 4 concentric rings around a piece of IP: creation, defense, monetization, and succession. Creation is the obvious part: invention, composition, or brand building. Defense is the legal scaffolding: registrations, cease and desists, precedents, and, when necessary, litigation insurance. Monetization is where most value is realized: exclusive licensing deals, strategic partnerships, platform integrations, and even passive placement fees. Succession is the quietly radical step: treating IP as an inheritable, divisible asset that can be held by trusts, family offices, or special-purpose companies. When you map these rings, you start to see why IP often outperforms other assets during economic turbulence. It is not tied to a single plant, commodity price, or macro cycle. It is tied to human attention and behavior. The wealthy also use packaging techniques, for example, bundling multiple patents, trademarks, and copyrights together to create a portfolio that is more valuable than the sum of its parts. That portfolio can be licensed to many partners at different price tiers, creating layered income streams that continue even when the original creator is no longer actively involved. That's how a song, a logo, or a single novel idea becomes both an income machine and a long-term store of value. Before we close this part, here are 3 immediately usable perspectives to carry forward. First, think like an owner, not a creator. Ask, how will this be protected, priced, and transferred before you build? Second, evaluate IP not as a cost center, but as a potential income center. Who could pay for exclusive access, and on what terms? Third, imagine the life cycle beyond you. How will this asset live inside a family office or a corporate structure 20 years from now? These thought experiments change decisions today. They alter how you name products, how you document inventions, and how you choose partners. Over the next episode, we'll dig into specific structuring moves, simple licensing templates, and the checks lawyers and family offices use to turn ideas into cash. But for now, let the insight settle. Intellectual property is quietly one of the most powerful engines of wealth in the modern economy because it converts human creativity into legal scarcity, recurring revenue, and intergenerational value. If you felt a shift in perspective in these few minutes, you've already taken the first step others never do, and that small step is where advantage begins. To wrap things up, think first in terms of a map of value, not a single asset, but how each piece of intellectual property fits into a machine of predictable cash flow. Turning protection into money requires three simultaneous operations. 1. Measure, assess the strength and scope of the right, territory, duration, ease of copying, proof of use. 2. Test, identify partners willing to pay for exclusivity or even a minimal competitive edge, and validate prices with a pilot deal. 3. Package, bundle rights, patents, plus trademarks, plus know-how, into tiered offers for different buyers. These three operations generate supply, social proof, and scarcity, the triggers that drive higher pricing and negotiability. Executed within 90 days, this is pragmatic. Document proof of creation and use, timestamps repositories, prioritize filings in markets where price and protection matter most, US, EU, UK key global hubs, and identify up to 2 partners for pilot licensing. By the end of those 90 days, you'll have hard evidence of demand, and evidence is what turns curiosity into cash. Next, let's break down monetization models and terms that actually convert. Exclusive licenses sell at premium prices, but they require guardrails, performance guarantees, milestones, and automatic reversion clauses if sales targets aren't met. Non-exclusive licenses multiply reach with lower per-partner income, perfect for brands and content. The ultra-wealthy often combine both: a hybrid deal with a modest upfront fee, plus royalty per sale, plus annual minimums, plus audit rights, plus tiered rates, royalty decreases as volume grows, plus carefully defined field of use clauses. When negotiating, always anchor high, back it with pilot data, and keep the first conversation terms simple. Complexity comes later in the contract stage. Use field of use segmentation, e.g., medical equipment, rather than all uses, to carve multiple revenue streams from one IP. Add limited warranties to protect yourself without paralyzing the deal. And if you're finding this practical and want access to sample templates and a due diligence checklist, hit subscribe to Investor School. Ask in the comments. That small click now translates into big tools later. Subscription is the lever between knowing and doing. Now comes risk and value. How do you prove price and reduce exposure? 3 complementary instruments do the heavy lifting. Valuation. Use simple but credible methods. A. Income approach. Relief from royalty. Estimate how much a company saves by not paying royalties. B. Market evidence. Compare with similar license deals. C. Option-based approach for high-risk tech. Low price now with upside built in. Risk mitigation. Leverage IP defense insurance, indemnity clauses, and escrow arrangements for critical assets like code or proprietary formulas. In litigation, winners rarely recover full costs, which is why the ultra-rich often prefer alternative strategies. Standards inclusion, forcing cross-licensing, strategic alliances that shift power, or monetization through platforms, app stores, marketplaces, that impose enforceable norms. Globally, they prioritize jurisdictions with predictable precedent and strong enforcement. When migrating IP between entities, they align transfer pricing with arm's-length principles to stay tax compliant. These moves reduce downside and increase predictability, and predictability is what investors are willing to pay multiples for. Finally, convert theory into habit. Use a 5-act plan across 6 months. 1. Inventory and proof of creation, month 1. 2. Priority registrations and minimal defense, month 2. 3. Pilot licenses with simple terms, month 3. 4. Build commercial offers and negotiate real contracts, months 4 to 5. 5. Structure holdings, vehicles, and succession planning, month 6. In each stage, track metrics, number of deals in pipeline, pilot to license conversion rate, projected recurring revenue, annual protection costs, renewal rates. Always frame numbers with stories, short narratives showing impact, e.g., partner X paid Y for a 12-month advantage that delivered Z in sales. Stories sell. And remember, true advantage comes from consistency. Protecting an idea is a single act. Turning that protection into predictable income is a habit. Apply even half of these tactics and you'll stand ahead of most investors still chasing factories or stock picks. Apply them all, and you build a wealth engine that outlives you.